Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Transport Topics webinar. My name is Sue Hensley, and I'm the publisher of Transport Topics. I'll also be serving as your moderator for today's program. Thanks for taking the time out of your schedule to join us. We plan to provide you with helpful information today that you can put into use into your own business operations during our program. That's the mission of Transport Topics and what we strive for in this informative webinar series. The title of today's webinar is Best Practices for Running a Data-Driven Driver Incentive Program. Our presenters today are Matthew Penland, who serves as Vice President of Risk Management for Cypress Truck Lines, and Garland Yarborough, the Director of Customer Success for SmartDrive. We will begin our presentation in just a moment, but first a few housekeeping items. If you're experiencing any technical difficulties with either the audio or video portions of this program, you can call the following number for assistance, 1-800-785-5623. Again, for technical assistance, that number is 800-785-5623. And here's a brief overview of how our program will work. Our speakers, Matthew and Garland, will present, and you can follow along on the slide presentation on screen. While that's taking place, you as an audience member can submit a question. At the top of your screen on the right-hand side, there's an icon labeled Questions. When you click on it, a box will pop up. You can type your question in that box, click Send, and your question will be submitted. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll have a Q&A session, and we'll do our best to answer all of your questions. You already know that your drivers are your most valuable assets, so it's imperative to keep them safe and happy on the road. No longer can you rely on a simple once-a-year safety bonus. You need to continually motivate your drivers while ensuring safety is maintained throughout your fleet. Now you can easily create monthly or quarterly driver scorecards based on comprehensive data across driver performance, safety, fuel efficiency, and more to identify your top performers and where improvements need to be made. During today's webinar, our presenters will share best practices for leveraging the data you already have to reinforce and reward your driver's accomplishments, KPIs that can positively affect change within your fleet, and tips on how to bring data into driver conversations. And now I'll turn things over to Garland Yarborough to start off today's webinar.
Thank you, Sue. Good morning and afternoon, everybody. This is Garland Yarborough, Director of Customer Success with SmartDrive, and we are excited to be spending a part of your day with us today. So before we get going, we wanted to ramp up a poll here, and the poll question is, do you currently have a driver incentive program in place? Yes, no, and working on it. Okay, so our agenda today, the driver retention dilemma. We won't spend a whole lot of time on that. Everybody on this call is well aware of the situation that's faced by fleets out there today. We're going to hit on creating and maintaining a safety culture at Cypress Truck Lines, where we're joined by Matt Penland. Taking things to the next level, paying for safety performance. Rolling out a data-driven driver incentive program, which Cypress has done. The program foundation, the SmartIQ Driver Scorecard, will take a glimpse as to what that looks like and how we've developed that in partnership with some of our customers. And some ideas to help you get started, and a Q&A session. Okay, so the driver recruitment and retention dilemma. So again, everybody's well aware of these facts, and what I would draw your attention to here are the two statistics down below. Reasons why drivers leave, 52% to make more money and 27% for the better benefits. And we've got some poll results in, so roughly 27% of the participants have something in place, 14% don't, and 17% are working on it. Okay, so what are some things that we can do to help shift the landscape that we see out there? So a recent survey shows 61% of respondents plan to invest in retention programs and 58% plan to invest in training and development. Some of the best run fleets out there, including SmartDrive customers, are using a data-driven incentive program as a differentiator to attract and then keep those quality drivers. And we're getting away from relying on a once-a-year safety bonus, instead going to a monthly or quarterly driver scorecard. So really the spirit and intent here is to help transform the economics and safety outcomes of fleets out there. And how do we go about making sure we're compensating the right drivers and then retaining them? And to me, right means productive and safe, and those two things go hand in hand. Okay, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt Penland.
All right,
and
thank you,
Matt,
Garland.
You should have the ball now. Thanks, Matt.
All right, I got it. Appreciate you guys joining us today. Hopefully, you can learn something from us. We're still students of this. We're still learning ourselves in this whole safety rewards bonus program, and it's something that we're working on daily and constantly tweaking and definitely seeing the benefits from running our safety program in this way. Just to give you a little history about who we are, Cypress Truck Lines is a family-owned and operated flatbed trucking company. It says here with 500 drivers. I wish we had 500 drivers. We're down a bit here recently, but just under 500 drivers. Everybody would like to have a few more drivers, but we've always had a strong safety culture, and over the years, have moved with technology and tried to implement the different technologies that were available. And we've continued to do that here into the future through SmartDrive and some other technologies on the truck. We focus on constructive coaching, and that's really a core of who we are as a company. It's our culture. It's how we do things, and we give people plenty of opportunity, but we also want them to be safe, and that's the big priority. A lot of people say, or all trucking companies say that they're safe, but we really, put a huge emphasis on that and make sure we have safe drivers out there. We've been using video for safety and exoneration and coaching since about 2012, and obviously we believe in setting those incentives out there for our drivers to become better, safer drivers in the long run. So just wanted to talk about creating and maintaining a safety culture. When you think of culture, your culture is the way you do things, and we have a very safety-oriented culture. Everything we do, we want to be safe and legal. And as I said, everybody says that, but actually carrying that out day after day. One of the things we've developed with the help of SmartDrive is having these videos. We've been able to use our own videos for training sessions, for orientation, for training sessions for our current drivers, and it's been very helpful. Very much like a professional athlete would review film footage, we're able to use that footage to coach and teach, and even if a driver hasn't seen a driving scenario like we're showing them in the video, at least it is a reminder, hey, here's what could happen to you when you're out there on the road. So we found that to be very helpful in our time with SmartDrive and using some of these videos. With video, you can identify distractions, and a distracted driver is an unsafe driver. And so we want to identify those distractions. We have both cameras, the forward-facing and the in-cab camera on, so that we can identify what a driver's doing when he does have a hard brake or whatever it may be. We coach drivers. We're actively coaching drivers. That's a big deal to us. So we're whenever a driver has an event and those events get into the coaching queue on SmartDrive, we try to actively bring those drivers in and have conversations with them so that we can change those risky behaviors that may be there, and in the long run, really run a safer fleet. Our training program is really one on constant contact. We want to, the drivers, we want them to be aware of what's going on SmartDrive, because that reveals to us who the safe drivers are and who the unsafe drivers are, who the risky drivers are. So it gives us an opportunity to make a difference there. And when we put out these plays of the week, or we show these film review sessions, it's an opportunity for us to constantly remind our drivers of our safety policies and what's going on. And it's not like it says here, it's not a gotcha. It's, hey, here's what's happening out there. Here's what this driver's done, or here's what this driver's seen. How can you adjust? How can you maybe, what could have been done different in this situation or in that situation? So, well, yeah, we've got a few video clips here. This is one of our teachings, so we push this out to our drivers on a couple of times a month, just to show them what's going on. This, and we block out the face so nobody knows who's who, but we show them here's some events that are happening on the road. Go ahead and play that for us. And so here's an opportunity for us just to say, hey, make sure you're aiming high and steering, make sure you're looking down the road. You can see this driver's messing with something on his dash. We identified the distractions, and we're able to coach that driver to hopefully change that behavior.
Watch this. Whatever reason, our driver whips over right behind this guy. And again, that's just too close. Let that pickup truck get by you before you change lanes. Driving too fast for conditions is the #1 cause of accidents. Your job is to control the speed and space around you. Here's an example of a driver who's going 65 miles an hour in a 40. Here's another one. Again, these drivers are not distracted by their cell phones. They're not talking on their hands-free device. They're constantly scanning the road. They notice the car drifting, make evasive moves. Very good job by our drivers in these examples. Again, another example of getting the big picture. You want to make sure you're aiming high and steering. You're looking far enough down the road that you have a good eye lead time to recognize this car on the side of the road is going to pull out right in front of me. I want to make sure I'm looking down the road at least 15 to 16 seconds in front of me so I can recognize those kinds of dangers that could pop out in front of me. Here's another one. You see these every day, cars coming on to the exit ramp. Maintain your lane, slow down, give this car room. Obviously the car is not seeing us, it speeds up right away and gets away from us. Another good job by our driver not being distracted. Here's another example of distracted driving. Notice this driver has his hand on the dash, moving it around. He's messing with his cell phone. He almost rear ends these cars. Do not text and drive. This is what SmartDrive labels as an unsafe lane change. Watch this. Whatever reason, our driver whips over right behind this guy. And again, that's just too close. Let that pickup truck get by you before you change lanes. Driving too fast for conditions is the #1 cause of accidents. Your job is to control the speed and space around you. Here's an example of a driver who's going 65 miles an hour in a 45-mile-an-hour construction zone. You can see the sign there clearly. SmartDrive will note that, and they will mark that you're exceeding the speed limit. Here the driver almost rear ends the back of this vehicle in front of him, has to make an evasive move, and again, it all starts because he's speeding. Once again, SmartDrive will look at the speed limit sign, the posted speed limit sign that they go by, 55 miles an hour in this case, and you can see clearly our driver is going 63. Control your speed.
So yeah, those were actual training clips there. We got a nice little intimate look at those are the things that we send to our drivers so that they can see what other drivers are experiencing, learn from their mistakes, hopefully, and make a difference in the way they drive their truck. So as you saw in those videos, we were able to point out there's some distracted driving going on, there's speeding going on, there's different qualifiers that are happening that we can have an impact on in the long run. So before we had SmartDrive video, we had the typical annual bonus programs based on mileage and no accidents, and really it was just basically defined by, well, this driver has not run into any fences or had any accidents out on the road, so therefore he must be a safe driver. And we would award those monies for mileages run for that year. But again, since we've gotten SmartDrive installed in all of our trucks, you know, it's really been a game changer for us. We've developed a bonus program where we use our safety score that SmartDrive has within their system already, and basically have been able to personalize these coaching sessions so that, you know, when a driver comes in, we're showing them, hey, here's what's going on, here's what we're seeing, here's what SmartDrive is marking for you, and it's very interactive. It's been a great way for us to kind of take our bonus to the next level. So no longer are we just looking at the fact that the driver didn't run over a fence at a customer or whatever, but now this driver, he's actually a safe driver. He's not tailgating. He's got his seatbelt on. He's not on his cell phone. He's not swerving off the roadway. I mean, SmartDrive has all these observations they will mark for you, and you get to pick and choose how you want to score those, and it really is a win-win for the fleet. It's a win for us as a company. We can say, hey, I've got a safe driver. If you think about it, when you're hiring drivers, you investigate their background and say, is this guy a safe driver? And when he comes on, this gives us a way to say, yes, he's genuinely a safe driver. And it's a win for the drivers because we can bonus them with more money and reward them for their efforts. Oh, yeah, let's see here. I got to go to the next tab. Sorry about that. So it's really kind of a notch up for us because no longer are we, you know, just rewarding once a year, but we're able to do it more frequently, and we know there's some indicators that are out there that are actually active. Every day these videos are being looked at, and if a guy's a reckless driver, that's going to come to the surface, and we'll be able to identify that and do something about that. So, you know, basically the drivers understand at this point, now that we've initiated this quarterly safety performance bonus, that they're really vested in this thing. You know, there's more opportunity for them to earn money, and since we've added this bonus in there, this incentive program, there's been way more interest in what their score is. You know, hey, what's my score at right now, and how can I change that? You know, there's been much more driver engagement. Before we connected the bonus to SmartDrive, it was really hard to get drivers to come in to be coached or whatever have you. You know, so definitely adding the carrot out there has helped us with our accountability, and really we want to hold these drivers accountable, because without accountability there's no responsibility, and that driver has a responsibility to drive safe. So it really is a win-win scenario for us. The more drivers who receive a bonus, you know, the safer we are as a company. And we feel like doing it quarterly, and the nice thing about this bonus that SmartDrive has is you can customize it for whatever you want. It's kind of a la carte deal where you can decide how you're going to run your safety program based on this Smart IQ program that they have, and it's very intuitive. So basically, just to kind of let you know what we did, and again, we're not perfect, that's for sure. We learn new things every day, and as you know, in trucking is always changing, and it's an ever-changing landscape, and so we recognize that, and here's how we kind of roll things out. We had an objective we wanted to reach. You know, we began with, first of all, getting the cameras. I think it's foolish in this day and age to not have cameras in your trucks. If you have any type of SIR, you need to have cameras in your truck. It's a no-brainer. And then once you get those cameras, you're going to have to run them a while to kind of set some standards of, hey, what's normal, what is safe, and to see that there's some key performance indicators that you can identify. And SmartDrive does a great job of pulling all that data in for you through the ECM, the fuel efficiency, the idling, all of those things. And then, you know, then it's up to you as a company to set some realistic goals and make those achievable for your drivers. And that's what we did. We worked with several of our drivers, and and just looked at how drivers were performing over certain quarters. We kind of ran this bonus in the background without any telling anybody about it to see where drivers kind of fell and where we wanted the score to be. Also, I think it is important that we do something monetarily. You know, you can talk about event recognition, giving them little pins or calling their name out, but drivers like cash. You know, cash is king. And so that's what we've tied to our bonus is basically a mileage payout, cents per mile for safe miles driven. The frequency of it, you know, it can be overwhelming, and that's part of the thing that scares a lot of people away from doing a quarterly bonus. I know it did us for years. We always did just an annual bonus just because it took so much effort to put together a quarterly bonus. So we have, you know, adopted this thing and been able to be pretty successful with it so far. And it does take some work. There's some effort in it, but SmartDrive's got it dialed down pretty good with this Smart IQ system and ways that you can tweak it and customize it for whatever you want. And it's very helpful in processing the data that's out there, because you all know that we live in a world that's data-driven, and there's tsunamis of data coming at you every day, and you've got to be able to get it into bite-sized chunks in order to benefit from it. And then just really communicating the program. You know, we're still excited about what's going on, and you know, it's new enough in our fleet where the drivers are still questioning, now how does this work, and you know, we're excited about sending out our bonuses for this first quarter and involving the families in that, even saying, hey, here's what your husband could have earned, here's what he did earn, and here's why, and here's how he can change that. And I think being clear, like we did in that little session, that little training session, we point out, here's how SmartDrive identifies that you're speeding, you know, and educate your driver, say, here's how to avoid that. You got to watch your posted speed limit signs and those kinds of things. So we're still, again, you know, a work in progress, and it's something that's constantly changing, and you know, as a trucking company, you got to be flexible to make those things work for your drivers. Garland, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, so we've seen some video-based examples. We've done a lot of talking. So what does this look like, and how does it get distilled down into a format that is easy to work with and use? So in conjunction with Matt and Cypress and other customers, a few of which Oakley, Fraley and Schilling, Nussbaum, Knight, and several others, have helped us refine and target and evaluate what was important in the report itself. So what we're looking at here is an example of an anonymized scorecard. And so this is, the intent here is it's purpose-built to quickly recognize and reward the top performers. And what we're seeing fleets do is they're typically leveraging this data and paying up to 5 cents a mile based on the SmartDrive safety score. So here's a little close-up shot. So what are some of the things that we added that were important to our customers? So a few examples for you. The ability to configure a time period, configure the start of your fiscal year, the ability to use disqualifiers, and we'll see a screenshot of that here in a second. Do you want to apply a certain amount % for how many events have been coached for your drivers? Is there a probationary period that you also want to apply to a driver? So you get them into the program, they've only been on it a couple months, but they don't yet fit into that bonus criteria. And then there's other traditional metrics like idle, MPG, that's also broken down into highway and city driving. So one of the things that's unique is, as a company, SmartDrive makes over 70 different observations when an event comes in for a review. And part of what we heard from our customers was we have some no tolerance policies for certain things. So if a driver's not wearing their seatbelt, or they're using a handheld device or texting while driving, we want the ability to immediately disqualify that driver. So what this screenshot is showing us is the ability to easily come in here, say what you want to disqualify for, and then the count threshold around that. So if you think about your fleet, the policies and procedures that you have in place, where maybe you have no tolerance for it, this really gives you the ability to come in and manipulate data very quickly. Okay, so getting started. Some tips. It's important to understand, if you don't already, what motivates your drivers. And as Matt said, cash is king. Most people are motivated by money. For some, that may be important, but not all incentives involve money. So talk to your drivers, find a way to sit down with them via town hall, do a survey, understand what motivates them, and then tailor your incentive plan to fit those needs. And what we found is that usually a combination of monetary and non-monetary incentives is more powerful than just having one standalone by itself. Okay, so some examples of non-monetary recognition: on-the-spot acknowledgement, a letter from the CEO, event acknowledgement, sending a letter home to the family, company or safety newsletter acknowledgement, creating events around drivers where you recognize them. And then on the monetary side, I know Matt runs a program, he calls it an attaboy. They have an event come in, a driver does a really great job, they give them money on the spot for those types of things. Obviously, Cypress is also using a quarterly bonus tied to safety performance. And then think about creating some competition within your company organization down to the site and driver level as well. Okay, so I believe everybody that's in attendance today will get the highly effective secrets to building a successful data-driven driver incentive program. And so there's a lot of literature out there that can help you get started or enhance what you may already be doing out there. I think with that, we're going to open it up to a Q&A.
Great. Thank you so much, Matthew and Garland. And a quick reminder for our audience members about how to submit questions. Again, at the top of your screen on the right-hand side, there's an icon labeled questions. When you click on it, a box will pop up. Just type your question in the box, click send, and your question will be submitted. And so let's get to some of those questions. Our first question: can you explain what the safety score is? How did you determine a score of 15? Matthew or Garland?
Hey, this is Garland. I'll go ahead and address what the safety score is. So essentially, a safety score is developed at a company level. We also generate that at a site level and down to the driver level, which is very important for customers. So at a high-level explanation, it is an accumulation of points based upon the observations that we make that's then divided by time. And the lower a driver's safety score is, the safer that they are. And so I'll let Matt add some color around how they settled on 15 as the right cutoff.
Yeah, so when you first sign up with SmartDrive, they're going to go through a list of things and going to ask you what do you want to, how many points do you want to assign to this. You can customize all those, or you can go with the default setting that SmartDrive provides for you. And then you just kind of watch your fleet go and get a feel for what, you know, is recognizably a good, safe driver. And, you know, for us, it was, hey, we want it as close to 0 as we can get it. And, you know, we felt like 15 was a good number for drivers to shoot as a goal to be under. It was very achievable. We had lots of drivers with zeros, and so that's kind of how we landed on the number 15. And the nice thing about it, though, at any point we can flex that. If, let's say that we run a quarterly safety performance bonus and we only have 10% of the drivers qualify, then something's wrong with that bonus. It's too strict. You know, we may need to flex that a little bit and pull in up to 50 points or 60 points, whatever it is. The system allows you to make those kinds of adjustments.
Great, thank you. Another question, you said your program is quarterly. If a driver has an at-fault accident, speeding ticket, or cell phone violation in one quarter, are they then eligible the following quarter, and does it affect their annual bonus?
Yes, it does. It depends on how big, how severe the accident is, obviously. But if they have, like, just a cell phone event, they will qualify for the bonus the next quarter. That's part of the motivation to do a quarterly bonus, is it kind of resets it for the driver. He may not have qualified for this quarter, but hey, you can qualify this quarter. So we want you to keep trying. We want you to put that effort out there to be a better, safer driver in the long run. Now, if he has a sizable accident, then that would obviously carry over to some other parts of their bonus.
Great. Another question. Using data is obviously more time-consuming than simply paying based on no accidents and mileage. How much time does it take for you to gather the data, analyze it, and determine who gets a bonus and who doesn't?
Well, once you get the SmartIQ system tweaked to how you exactly want it, it's not too bad. It pretty much runs itself, the SmartIQ portion of it. Now, if you have other requirements that you're wanting your drivers to meet, then it's going to take a little bit of effort of maybe bringing a few spreadsheets together and so forth. But for the most part, it's pretty intuitive and takes care of itself for us so far.
Okay, another question. Were your drivers involved in creating the new program, and did you have a committee of drivers who helped create it?
We had driver involvement in the sense that, we have lots of senior drivers that have been with us for 25, 30 years, and we had lots of extensive conversations with them. We never had like a little committee or anything, but we definitely talked to drivers and asked them what they thought about it. And drivers are skeptical at first, but once they realized there was more opportunity for them to make some money here, then they're very interested in how can I do that. And so that's just a motivator for them to be safe out there on the road. And it's, you just got that constant contact with the driver in that sense that, hey, where's my safety score at? SmartDrive provides drivers with a website they can go to, and they can see their safety score. They can sign in and say, hey, what did they get me for? And it's very, very helpful.
Another question, any specific helpful tips as our company moves from very little accountability toward a more responsible and accountable approach?
Go slow. I guess, take your time and it's going to be an eye-opener, and there's a lot of things you have to deal with, and just take your time, keep marching forward.
I would also add in there, it's really about the executive leadership and ownership creating a culture of change and then driving that from the top down and really articulating to everybody in the company, including your drivers, why are we doing this? And that's very important to make sure everybody's on the same page and everybody understands what the shift is for, what the change is for, and that everybody is in agreement that this is the right thing to do.
Yeah, I would agree with that. When we first started out, the owner of our company had a camera in his pickup truck, so very important.
Okay, here's another question. How do you address drivers who have an incident early in the period and have lost their bonus opportunity? Do they give up for the quarter or the month?
That's a good question. I hope not. And again, that's part of what we're looking at as we continue forward with this bonus is if they've messed up, does that DQ them for the entire amount for that quarter? Are they done? And right now they are. They have to wait till the next quarter before they can qualify. And it shouldn't, because their safety score is going to keep rolling on, and that's the idea. If this guy's not a safe driver and he doesn't care anymore, I really don't want him driving one of our trucks. So that's a good question.
Okay, here's another question. Do you tie your driver safety program into the trailer, its load, and how the load is secured? Basically, do you add safety procedures into the overall program?
Yes, we do. We have other metrics that go into it besides what's involved in SmartDrive and achieving a good road safety score. We have different variances we look at and whether a driver had any incidents in those areas like a load shift or anything like that, for sure.
Okay, and then I've got another one. Typically, in-cab event recorders only generate events when something like spiking brakes or swerving or impact. Does SmartDrive determine when a driver is or was speeding without a quote-unquote event?
I'll let Garland take that one.
I'll take that one, yeah. So right now, the person asking this question is correct, right? We get some type of trigger, and then as we're reviewing that observation, we know speed based upon ECU data, GPS, and a road sign. There are likely some things in our roadmap that will allow us to do the second half of the question, which is know if a driver was speeding without having an event triggered.
Great, and this one's very specific to SmartDrive, the company. How long has SmartDrive been in business, and how long has Cypress been using SmartDrive?
We're working on 14 years as an organization, and Matt, how long have you been around?
We've been since 2013, I believe.
Yeah, there's definitely a long and tenured relationship between SmartDrive and Cypress, and they're a great partner of ours.
Garland, I've got one for you. Regarding engine metrics, idling, over revving, MPG, is SmartDrive connected to the ECM, or rather, do you integrate with the ELD?
So for the first half of that question, yes, we do hook into the ECU, and that's where a lot of data comes from. Also on certain platforms of ours, if you have active safety systems, we'll actually trigger events based upon what we're reading off of those active safety systems as well. And the second half of the question was, do we integrate into ELDs? And we do not integrate into ELDs.
God, that's great. Keep the questions coming. These are great. Matt, I have one for you. How was the acceptance level of your drivers when you implemented SmartDrive? Was there some kind of a big brother pushback? How did you present this to your drivers?
Naturally there was, I mean, just like when we first started doing electronic logs years ago, drivers, oh, I'm never going to do electronic logs, and now all those drivers are doing electronic logs. There was the initial, oh, what's this all about? But as we investigated and explained to the drivers how it exonerated them, and we didn't have our cameras in our trucks very long before we had some accidents where, boom, the driver was exonerated, and we were able to say, hey, this guy, otherwise we may have terminated this driver because we don't know what happened. But now that we have this video, we see what happened, we're able to retain the driver. He's a safe driver. It was not his fault. And it's been very helpful in that. And once the drivers start to see that the cameras are there for their good and their well-being, along with the well-being of the safety of the motoring public, then the acceptance started to come in. But I'm sure it hurts our recruiting a little bit right now, just because the people find out you have cameras, and if they don't want to come drive for a company that has cameras, then they're doing something wrong, and we don't want that person driving one of our trucks anyway.
Well, when it comes to drivers, do you use any coaching or additional training classes for drivers to have an opportunity to earn points back? Maybe not necessarily to their quarterly bonus, but to their annual.
Absolutely. We use training when guys have repetitive things that are happening that we can identify. We send them this training. They can do some training and hopefully learn and be able to qualify for the next quarter. There is a what we call a 3-year no accident bonus that they can still qualify for it even if they don't qualify for these quarterly bonuses, and also a different mileage bonus that they can qualify for. So we didn't snatch the rug out from under them all at once. We continued to do some of the current bonuses we had. We just kind of shifted a little bit of what we were focusing on in the money and made it attractive for the drivers.
Garland, do you involve CSA score into the driver score?
So no, we do not factor in CSA score into the driver score. However, especially as it pertains to the unsafe driving basic, if you look at the 70+ observations that we make as an organization, a lot of them directly tie into the things that you get dinged with as a company in terms of speeding, lane restriction violations, failure to obey devices, failure to use a seatbelt, following too close, etc. So there is a direct correlation between the observations that we make and then what your drivers are getting hit for out on the road that hit your unsafe driving basic.
Thank you. Matt, I have one for you. Have you tied discipline to the in-cab camera or just the incentive?
Certainly discipline comes along with it. You know, you'll be amazed at what you see that goes on inside the cab while the truck's going down the road, and so you have to give discipline where it's needed. For instance, obviously the cell phone is a huge issue. The DOT has for us in a commercial motor vehicle, you have the one-touch law, and you know, we identify drivers that have the cell phone in their hand and they're scrolling through something, and there has to be disciplinary action taken. And we've had to develop our, you know, our cell phone policy as to what, you know, how we discipline that, and it's been a work in progress, and it's definitely changed the culture of safety as far as using your cell phone. It's a big issue.
Great. Matt, I've got another one for you. Can otherwise disqualifying events be reversed on the SmartIQ driver scorecard if circumstances or situational factors warrant such a decision?
Yes, absolutely. That's, again, another thing that is crucial with SmartDrive. They look at everything, they watch every video, they mark the observations like Garland has said, and they send those to you, put them in the coaching queue, and then you get to watch those even before you call your driver or make contact with your driver, and you can make judgments and say, okay, I want to remove that observation because a common one, as you all know, is a tailgating issue, and when drivers are going along fine and a car pulls in front of them, you know, oftentimes SmartDrive will mark that as a tailgating, which it is, but it's really not our driver's fault. As long as our driver responds to that car pulling in front of them, lets out of the fuel, gets on the brake, whatever, and backs away, then we can take that observation away and remove those points. So that really, it's been interesting to see the change as drivers come in and say, hey, what about this? They said it got me for, you know, a following distance. I want to see it, you know, and we can look at that following distance together and, you know, make a judgment call and say, hey, yeah, we can remove those points. That's not an unsafe following distance. That's not your fault. And so there's been a little extra involvement there, which is good. It's always positive to have driver contact and conversations with those guys about their safe driving.
Thank you. Another question, as you progressively implemented this type of incentive program with the aid of SmartDrive, what percentage of the driver's overall pay became accessible through this program? Can you identify a threshold that encourages compliance and cooperation?
Jeepers, that's a long question.
It's so again, yeah, as you've progressively implemented this type of incentive program, what percentage of drivers' overall pay became accessible through the program, and then the threshold encouraging compliance?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been, you know, I just had a driver in here before this meeting, and we were talking about what he earned this quarter, and I think he had a smile on his face. I don't know if that answers the question or not, but you know, he's realizing there's some extra money in his pocket, and I have a smile on my face knowing this guy, he had a 4. He scored a 4, so he qualified for a higher tier of a bonus, you know, and so, you know, I know that guy's a safe driver, and that helps you sleep at night, you know.
Well, I think to add in here, thinking back to one of the slides prior, Cypress drivers now have the ability, in terms of bonus, there's a 65% potential increase in pay as it relates to bonus for them to earn. So drivers have the ability to earn more money. And then for the second half of the question, can you identify a threshold? If that means, can you identify a safety score by which drivers would qualify or not? That's really a unique and personalized thing for each fleet, that it would be too hard to throw out a number and say this is the recommendation.
Great, thanks. I have another question. What was the hardest part about initiating this new program? Any roadblocks we should be aware of before starting?
What do you think, Garland?
Well, I think first, having the format and the data down took some time with Matt and Cypress and other customers, and now that it's really kind of commercially general availability, it's there. So having the data is not the issue. I think it's rolling something like this out slowly and communicating along the way so that everybody understands what the criteria is and that it's fair and objective, so that drivers, you know, don't get caught up in, why didn't I earn my bonus, because they didn't understand what the criteria was.
Yeah, I think that's key, is making sure it's achievable, you know, that drivers want to know that it's going to be fair, and that's where you really have to work closely with your drivers to find out what they're concerned about, and I think it works pretty good.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank the audience for submitting such great questions today. We are at the end of our program. I'd like to thank our presenters, Matthew, Penland, and Garland Yarborough, and also our sponsor, SmartDrive. If you have additional questions or you'd like more information, you can use the contact points on screen to get in touch with them. And if you know of someone who wanted to attend today's program but was unable to do so, or if you'd like to go back and review any or all of today's program, we will have it available on our webinar archive page at www.ttnews.com. Thanks again for attending today's webinar, and we wish you a great day.